of October 2019. Time check, it's 7:30, and time for Freshly Pressed 981. This is when we go in detail of the national news headlines presented to you earlier at 6:30. And to join us for this analysis, we have Adenike Oyetunde. Good morning, Adenike.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Adenike is
morning.
Adenike Oyetunde on Twitter. I have Wade Aine.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, Lagos.
Wade.
Good morning, Ugo. Good morning, Adini.
Wow, morning. Good morning all around. Wade is at Wink Nigeria on Twitter, and we have Ugo Dre. Morning, Ugo. Ugo is at Ugo Dre on Twitter. I'm Ayo Mairese.
And I am Valentine Oku. Good morning.
You can find us at Smooth 981 FM using the hashtag Freshly Pressed 981.
Yes, and you can also send us messages on WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. We're streaming live on YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel so when we come on live, you can always be the first to know. We'll start with our first story. Very interesting stories we have today, so get ready to send in your comments on WhatsApp and every other platform. On the Guardian newspaper, starting from this story with Adenike, Buhari cuts foreign trips, ESTA codes for ministers, others. Among some of the guidelines or instructions that are handed down and delivered from one of his aides, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, released in a statement, and I quote, except with the express approval of Mr. President, ministers, permanent secretaries, chairmen of extra ministerial departments, chief executive officers and directors are restricted to not more than 2 foreign travels in a quarter. Take us through the other stipulations that as outlined in this story, Adenike.
Okay, so following through with the quote she said, I'm going to continue. It says they are further required to make their presentation using the existing template and also secure approvals on specific travels as contained in the plan from the appropriate quarters. So invariably there are 4 quarters. So it means that overall in a year you are not supposed to exceed 8, except you get the express approval of the president. Now, the aim, as we already suspect, is because they're trying to cut cost. But what stood out to me is the fact that he said this is aimed at instilling financial discipline and prudence, particularly in the area of official travels. And I have a problem with that because it feels like what is not a habit or a lifestyle is kind of hard to start to inculcate as an adult. And for these individuals, if they have never had this lifestyle, so it means that the office that they're occupying is what is compelling them. So it might be a real snack for a bit up until, the president and now through the attorney general implement what the president has stated through his secretary. So also going on, they say that it also noted that when a minister is at the head of the official delegation, the size of such delegation should not exceed 4, including a relevant director, the scheduled officer, and 1 aide of the minister. Every other delegation below ministerial level shall be restricted to a maximum of 3. They also stated that the minister and the chairman, senior special assistant, blah, 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 will continue to fly business class while other categories of public officials are to travel economy. And they also talked about the number of days. So if you're going for an event, for instance, you shall not exceed the duration for the event. All those arrived there long before the event starts, and then we stay to relax and
Let's
catch
just
our
have the
breath.
official meeting 2 days and then
Nope,
for the next
that,
one.
that ain't gonna happen no more. But yeah, I think that's what it is, and without a doubt, it sounds kind of, I don't want to say commendable because really nobody should teach us. This is just prudence. It's because we have gone into government and we have decided to do anyhow for such a long time, which is why this is coming up. But still flying business class, how are they different from you and I? Why should we pay for their business class? Do you know what? I'm not joking.
I didn't
Business class
really.
tickets.
Okay, why not?
Are you serious?
Nigeria is not the only country that has
No,
that
no,
provides
no,
for
I'm
business
not
class
saying.
services.
No,
or
no,
flights
I'm not
for
saying
the
that
officers.
Nigeria is not the only country. I simply asked a question that are we saying that these people are so awesome?
No, they're
That
senior.
they,
If they were in a private company, they're senior executives. I believe that there's certain.
is it that they should use their, when the government buys them economy, they should upgrade to business
When
class.
can we ever be satisfied?
I
Because
think
if you
for
look
me,
at it,
no.
I mean, there are some countries that fly the officers in private jets.
I'm not disputing that.
Yes.
Can they afford it?
That's why what is key here is because when I read this story, what I was looking for was
how much exactly
Are
Are
we
we
saving?
are we
Nothing
gonna
now.
save by doing this? That's really what it
Yeah.
is. If we're saving 100 million, if you're saving 2-3 billion, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
I really don't know what we're saving.
Because surface level
So
sounds
that
like
puts it into
sound
better
bites.
context.
Yes. Okay.
So we don't know what to measure, and that what he just talked about is how to measure effectiveness, which is one of the biggest problems that we have. So to December next year when they bring it up, we can't say, oh, so we saved blah blah blah. So
And then comparatively, this is
they're
how
just
we're
trying to talk,
progressing.
Jerry. So we know that they are
So we're
working.
looking for
Oh, they are working.
we're looking for metrics, but this sounds good to be honest.
Yes.
Looking at-
MI from Akoka says, this is a man in the mirror story.
Mhm.
Let that All right, then we have other comments here.
yeah,
Chika
presidential
says,
jets.
so
Chika.
PMB approved new austerity measures for his ministers, then went ahead and approved 6 new aids for his wife. This is just another rhetoric and soundbite by the government.
Okay, so let's go and talk about the new aids for the wives.
It's pro bono.
Sorry.
The aides are working pro bono.
Oh, really? Interesting. Let's find out how true this is. Ugo, is that true?
Well, I don't
Put some
know.
context. Are they
All I
pro
know
bono?
is
Are they
that,
working for free?
Finally, I guess for me, the interesting part of the story, which I guess is the next story, basically is that the wife of the president, the first lady, has actually come out to apologize to her kids, and of course Nigerians for the embarrassment that the videos and a lot of the news that we've had has caused. And I actually thought that was important. It was important that she does that because it was actually very embarrassing. The position of the office of the first lady, even though it's not an officially recognized office statutorily, is significant, it's symbolic, for Nigerians, because you are actually meant to be role model for a lot of mothers out there and aspiring wives and mothers as well. So if they sort of basically just demean that office into some kind of scuffle where you see family members and relatives and friends start to quarrel over who stays in one room and all that. It just seems it's just like a Fuji House of commotion or things like. So I'm happy that she's really come out to apologize, because she was my mother. Actually would feel embarrassed as well. So I'm happy that she's basically come out to apologize. And then yes, they've appointed HR, but let's not that I'm a fan of hers, but then let's also recognize that I don't think I've seen a first lady in recent times that has actually had a much lower profile, compared to the others before her, apart from maybe Yaradua's wife. Even Yaradua's wife didn't have a low profile. In fact, she was
even more high profile.
So she's actually had a very low profile and not as influential as some of the first ladies that we've seen, in recent times. So apart from maybe some of her remarks about cabal and all that, but she's basically had a low profile. And then but what was interesting here was that there was an event that she said was attended by the wife of the vice president, wife of the senate president, wife of the speaker, wife of governors. So it kind of reminds me of what do we call this one?
Someone's
Spouses
watching
of
TV.
girlfriends, songs of what? I don't know. But
First
it
ladies.
seems like in Nigeria, we seem to have our own version of WAGs. I don't know which other country in the world where you have wives of public officials who seem to just come together and form all these committees and celebrate with each other and fans each other.
But we know over time. I've heard stories. I've read articles that speak to the work that they come together to execute, especially in areas of maybe women development or girl child awareness and something.
I know these are some people will tell you that these are just face value and all that, but that if you look deep inwards, it's a lot more just
But the truth,
remember
together.
the video of, was it last year or 2 years ago, where the first lady was landing in one airport. And,
Oh yes,
the
I'm quite
governor's wife
a
and
number
her
of
was
Like,
just
seriously?
So you start to wonder, look, what exactly?
But beyond the hazy details that we find when we talk about these things, and we're not really sure what their role is. We understand it's very important to note that they occupy a very important position in the scheme of things.
Yes, they do.
Because the women have the ears of the men.
But which one is wife of Senate President? Wife of House?
Wife of-
They are married.
But do you
what are they
think,
occupying?
Ugo, do
What
you
is their
think
job?
our culture encourages
first
this?
assembly.
So, wait, hold on. Do you think our culture encourages this? So, when you see associations like you mentioned, wives of governors, wives of Lagos State public officers, civil servants, we have so many of them. And it's with a lot of fanfare. We don't seem to complain. And whether we like it or not, public, the public's money goes into funding some of these
Absolutely.
activities. Do we encourage this kind of culture as
I don't think
Nigerians?
so because it's not the same in the private sector. So I've not heard anybody. I don't know who the wife of the CEO of Zenith Bank is, who gives parties and things like that. You don't know who they are. Do they have association of wife of bank MDs?
It might be quiet.
I
We're not
don't. I
sure.
don't think so. At least I've never heard of it, or association of tech entrepreneurs and things like that.
Maybe it's about time we constituted such.
Ah,
That's just a suggestion. Anyway,
I just think it's pervasive with government officials, and it just should stop.
but safe to see that the family is in order now, and also to lend some humanity to the offices. Just put it
And
in
just to add to that, are we expecting an apology from the daughter of the nephew of the
she
president?
messed up. So I don't think anybody's going
Please,
to compel.
please,
Okay, I don't think anyone is going to compel her to do the needful. So if she doesn't feel a need to address it, then that's on her, and it's going to be with her for as long as we continue to remember it for. So
And by her, you mean the Daura's daughter? Yeah?
That's
Yeah,
Fatima
yeah.
Dawa.
Okay, Fatima Daura. Taya from Yaba sent in a message. Said, Denika, tell them, oh, it's their private money. It wouldn't. If it's their private money, it won't be wasted like that. Don't forget to wait for Grapevine. Yes, I'm back. We're now with Mr. Lillian. That's a rock edition. Interesting stories here. Let's move on to the next one. This time around, I'll come to you, Ade. Sex for Grades is back in the stories. Actually, we have two stories relating to that today. The first one, I would like you to connect both. This first one, Sex for Grades, talks about the new move by the University of Ibadan. Yesterday, they published an email address and a telephone number for its students to report cases of sexual harassment and sexual misconduct. Your thoughts?
Good news. Very, very good news. But I don't think we had to wait for this thing operation for us to do this. This is long overdue in the institutions in Nigeria. Another good thing I saw is that for the UI, they also put up a policy on what's it called, on behavior of lecturers, and which also goes to show that, well, they are reacting, but at least they're doing something.
Yeah.
We should be more proactive about these things. The one thing that catches me though is the email address. Why are we using Gmail? This is
for UI, wow.
this is
For the University of Ibadan.
for University of
They don't want
Ibadan.
the servers to be down.
Do they even have the?
I really don't know, and
it's important.
and
but
it's really important because who really has access to this Gmail account? Who is the custodian? And at the end of the day, how do you ensure that there is transparency and all? But a good one. I hope most of the universities will follow suit and put in proper policies and all. The only other thing I need to say here is I hope the process will be transparent. I hope it will be transparent, and I hope they're not going to use it to, what's that word, when you whistle blow and then to try and witch hunt people. And then the other part of it is what is in it for the lecturers themselves if the students are also harassing them. So we need to look at both sides. I'm not what's it called, but I think the policy has to look at that also. How do they also lay their own complaints? Because sometimes you always say, oh, it's the lecturers. Sometimes also antagonize the lecturers, and that's a fact. So great one by UI. I hope all the other universities will follow suit and move in the right direction.
And I'd like to hope that there's a system in place, even if it's not clear in the details of this story, that there's a system in place beyond just providing contact details.
Oh yes, and that's why I said I hope the process itself
make it more neutral
would,
and
would be transparent for everybody to see and
consequences.
and then the consequences also from the action.
Interesting thing, Ugo.
Yeah, is that there was this. I don't know if you read that scathing editorial from the Guardian newspaper 2 days ago, basically, in antagonizing, the BBC's sting operation. They didn't like it at all. It was quite scathing. But what was interesting about the article was that the University of Lagos actually has a policy on sexual harassment, sexual romance. It's actually
Yes.
there.
Yes, so
Some
it's-
schools have it. It's just that do you implement it?
That's right, and that's been the question. Now,
So it's
talking
not
about
just
implementation and consequences,
hotlines.
this lecturer got a 200,000 naira bill over alleged sexual harassment of female students. Looking through the details of the story, it's been said that he's the 36-year-old lecturer, Alicia. He has been granted this amount in bail. He said one of the shorties must be, or the court actually said one of the shorties must be a senior lecturer of Kano State, the School of Technology. But there are other details around this story. 200,000 naira seems like a paltry sum to this kind of case. But I mean,
Well, you also need to look at the details of the story. It's quite funny. Um, it was a sting operation on the man, and when he was arrested, there was the first initial report that the man agreed to and he pleaded guilty. And then when the case was brought to the judge on the day of the hearing for sentencing, the lawyer comes back and says the man did not understand what was written there. So it calls to question so many things. A lecturer shown a report, were you forced to sign the report or to say you agreed to what happened? Didn't he have his counsel with him on that day for you to come to the court the first time and plead guilty, and all of a sudden you change your mind? So there are quite a number of things that we need to look at, and that's why I said it's quite funny. It takes when it's time to pronounce or to give a sentence, and that's when you remember that, oh, you didn't understand what was written there. Is it that they didn't explain to you, or your counsel wasn't there to explain to you in details what you agreed to?
but I'd like us, I mean, let's not make judgments based on the case that's already in court and still in court for avoidance of subsidies, but also look at the implication of such actions, and looking at the usefulness of the fact that, oh, this is coming to news right now, the fact that people we're seeing clear consequences to
Exactly.
these actions.
And this is also a good one. Why? Because the police did what they needed to do. They've taken it to court. There's a hearing, there's a bill, there's a further hearing for November when the case will be put in place, and that's fantastic.
Thank you, Wadi.
All right, on YouTube, we have a conversation there, and Ruby Tennyson seems to say that why are we saying wives of? This is on the assumption that public officers will always be men, rolling her eyes. So apologies for that. I'm sure it's spouses.
No, but-
We're just
but
referring to this particular
There are
story.
many existing associations of this nature,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's what you channeled your comment about. Not everything is.
And besides, Nigeria is largely a patriarchal system, or practices largely a patriarchal system. So would
Police officers and wives.
actually knock the need
It's
for
actually
recognition.
spouses and relatives of government officials.
I think someone has. Yeah, thank you so much, Ugo, for that. Spouses and relatives, SAR. Thank you. That's the new SARS for branding. Chima says sex for grade policies isn't new in our universities. I wonder why no one is looking at the other side of guys who can't offer it. Trust me, guys rot in schools when they enter these lecturers' black books. So looking at beyond sex for grades, when lecturers victimize students for not, maybe I just don't like your shirt
Oh
today.
yeah, sure.
All right. Oh, you didn't greet me. You didn't say good morning.
Yes.
Guardian newspaper has this next story, and I'd like us to go through it very quickly. I didn't care. 500 naira, 1,000 naira denominations. Sorry, Ugo. Denominations most commonly counterfeited banknotes, according to the CBN report. They said there's a total of 119,663 pieces of counterfeit notes with a nominal value of 98.82 million naira recorded in 2018. A few questions came to mind as I was going through this story. The fact that we've been complaining about trying to avoid inflation, to a very great extent, we are experiencing inflation, although the finance minister had said that it's been declining. But isn't this a strong indication that there's so many areas, so many factors, pushing on that line, especially looking at demand pull inflation? I'd like you to highlight all these things, please.
Well, the article says we have 2.3 trillion currency in circulation.
Counterfeit?
No. Currency in circulation.
Okay.
So in terms of counterfeit, I don't see any relationship or how it affects inflation in general. In fact, the number is very small. From what they're saying here, they're like 16 pieces per million. So for every million notes you have out there, irrespective of denomination, it's just about 16 of them that are
About 16,000.
Yeah, and just compared to it's currently 18 pieces, but it was 16 pieces before. So,
but would you say that's insignificant?
Yeah, I think it's insignificant. I mean, without seeing data from other countries, but I actually think on the face of it, it's insignificant. And then a lot of the counterfeit notes as well, from what they're saying here, is mostly 500 and 1,000 naira notes. So it's actually insignificant, because if it's significant, then you see a lot of this happen. So but you got to be careful. What it means is that the kind of notes they fake the most is 500 and 1,000. You understand that? And besides, to me, the question here is that we don't even see. They don't even talk about the much lower denominations again, like 20 naira, 10 naira, 5 naira.
Even 1 naira.
They are still legal tender,
Yes.
but we don't even see them anymore. So this sort of, I guess, is what we're probably trying to say is how inflation can actually erode the value of notes, because now there's very few things that you buy for 20 naira. Even 100 naira notes, 50 naira notes these days you don't see them anymore, right? So 100 naira notes is perhaps the lowest denomination now of notes that you see, around. So, but by and large, I think that at least it's good that we don't counterfeit our notes, that much. At least Nigerians still value that a lot. So good stuff here.
I mean, just very quickly, I would also want us to just mention, I mean, do you think your own judgment based on the reviews you've been doing so far in your business, I mean, do you think banks compensate businesses like FMCGs when they return counterfeit notes? I mean, they are supposed to be compensated for them.
I guess for me, I don't know if they do that, if they compensate them, but what I get worried about is that there's still a lot of very dirty notes out there. And in fact, the worst place where you find those are toll gates. I don't know, especially that one in Koi.
Yes.
No matter how wide you smile at them, they still just give you this very
100
dirty
naira.
Even the filling
As if they
stations are
dump
giving
all of
better
them
notes
there.
now.
Yeah, they dump all those dirty notes there. So, and then you now still go to weddings and you see those very crispy
I was
clean
going
notes.
to say,
That
that's
problem
the
still
only place.
exists in Nigeria. I don't know when it's going to change.
Alright.
It's amazing that the toll gate itself, especially the one in Ikoyi, is still giving out those dirty 100 naira.
I said it's the higher.
It's amazing. I don't know. Is it that they don't bank those notes every day?
Or they have a bank of dirty notes.
Maybe
One
they
of
do.
them.
They
All right.
don't
Thank
You
you
guys
very
just
much.
mentioned something very fleetingly. The wedding notes. They are very, very
Crispy clean.
For lack
Would
of
you-
better word, they are
would-
viral.
Would you go and spray all dirty notes?
Should it even be sprayed?
Should you be spraying?
But at face value, how do you tell the one that's real and the one that's fake?
Fake,
You're
yeah.
in such in a hurry to collect that guy.
Exactly. Anyway,
It's risk.
All right. It's a risk, and please, that maybe you should the markers as to point out which is fake and which is real. Let's move on to our next story. Unfortunate news from Onitsha, but thankfully no lives were lost according to this report. Tanker fire destroys 6 buildings, shops in Onitsha. Now, Adenike, very worrying was what number one, the cause of the accident. Number two is the response by the fire service officials. Please, can you take us through the story?
Okay, so the sector commander of the FRSC, Mr. Andrew, excuse me, Kumapai, I murdered the name.
Kumapai.
Yes, said, is that a Yoruba name?
Yes.
Oh, so it's
Yes,
Ikumapai. Oh, my bad. Said that the officials got to the scene of the fire promptly, according to him, but that they couldn't put out the fire as their water pump developed a fault. And if you go on Twitter, it's still trending. You will see that the reports claim that for hours on end, the fire was raging and nothing was done about it. And that also brings to question one of our biggest problems about the fire service in this country. It's one thing to have water. It's one thing to pressure.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be able to navigate your cars through traffic where somebody is now holding a megaphone to say, please move, we are going for fire, because nobody listens when you use a siren any longer. Why? It has been bastardized. But then to now realize that they got there and the water pumps were faulty. So the question is, what inspection, what quality service had they, been carrying out on their vehicles? How often, after each a fire quenching experience, do they just park the cars there? Do they check these cars? When last was this particular fire truck inspected? How old is this particular fire truck? When last did they get new ones?
Yeah.
It raises many, many questions. And again, just reiterates the fact that if you have a fire incident in your home, it just feels like you're alone, you're on your own. And it's very worrying. I live near one fire truck, one fire service, and I have never seen the car move, though it looks very beautiful. I'll be honest with you. Fine, you could tell that it's a new truck.
Yes.
But I've wondered what the functionality, consists of if and when there's a fire incident. So no life was lost. I beg your pardon.
Although a report, sorry to
Yeah,
cut you
sure.
short, a report from Premium Times report says that a mother and a child lost their lives in this fire incident I was speaking of.
So why are they conflicting stories?
So this one the story from
Yes,
Punch
from
newspaper
Punch.
says maybe at the time of reporting, no life was lost, and then an update to that story from the Premium Times.
Very,
then
very
states-
quickly, when we have fire incidences, because when we watch American films, and there's the authorities are chasing a robber or someone who is doing wrong. They'll just tell me, get them and show you their badge.
Yes,
And
yeah.
in American film now, they'll contact you to say, oh, one of our officials took your. In this instance, the houses and the homes that were destroyed, what happens to them, to the owners?
Just very quickly, we need to touch on this. Now, according to this report from the Punch newspaper, the tanker lost control due to brake failure. Hence the reason for the accident. How about the state of the vehicles, the motor?
Have you bothered to look at the trucks that we see plying our roads? You could tell that these are trucks that have been used in other places, and the moment the government say, oh, it has exceeded,
they move them to Nigeria.
They bring them back
Right.
but
there's a law on MOT in Nigeria.
Enforcement. Prince here asked a question. He said, he actually said, did you guys, okay, no, so we've corrected that. He said, I think people should start having insurance. It's very interesting. It's
Absolutely.
very important.
Insurance.
Fire says, trust the fire services to get to a fire incident and become spectators because of faulty tools. It's high time we localize these issues. Denica, they are still asking for it for the grapevine.
All right, let's move on very quickly to our next headline here. I'll go to an Buhari signed bills into law from the This Day newspaper. Ugo, can you please take us through that story?
Yeah, so the president signed 5 bills into law. 2 of them were university-related bills. One was for Abafemi Awolowo University, and that was for Balewa University. However, the one that is of concern to me, which I haven't actually read this bill, but was of concern to me, were 2 bills. One, the fertilizer Quality Control Bill 2019, and then the Council for Food Science and Technology Bill 2019. Now, why is this a concern to me? Look, whenever you have all these bills, it's just a lot more regulatory bottleneck for companies. And in Nigeria, we talk about ease of doing business. And it's important that you have bills like this, but are these bills out there to actually enhance business operations, or are they out there to just become another plug in the wheel? And the concern for me is this particular one for Food Science and Technology Bill, like they said here, is in order to regulate excuse me, the activities of the food industry. So they have come again. So maybe very soon before you know, the cost of food, eateries will go up, because
cost of food has already gone
no,
up.
as in buying food, if you go to all these places where they sell regular fast food now, I don't know what are they going to start asking them to pay some kind of license because that's usually what happens. So it's not that they actually regulate them the way you expect regulations to work. Most times it's just an avenue to start to levy them and start to ask them all sorts of charges.
But also it's important for these policies to be put in place, because we know that the regulation on that area or that sector has been quite low or disregarded largely.
I agree completely.
Valentine, but my question is this: why set up all these bodies? What happens to the Ministry of Health in checking these things?
What about NAFDAC?
What about NAFDAC? What about all these
point
things?
of correction is they're not necessarily bodies, they're bills, there are some sort
Yeah,
of
but
laws
you
and
see,
policies to guide the actions of those bodies.
What usually happens is that this is a council, there's a bill to technically
so
you're setting up a new setup, vice chairman.
Hey, you don't know these guys.
It's
really
amazing.
And you still have FCCCP, which is the Federal Consumer Protection, whatever.
There are so many of them.
It's not easy.
All right, thank you very much, Ugo. Let me stay with you, Ade, for the next story. Very quickly, lecturer gets still final story here on the still on the.
I think we spoke about that earlier.
The 200,000 bill.
Yeah, we have.
Oh, you touched on it.
Yeah.
Apologies for that. All right, then let's look at the Boko Haram, now substantially defeated, says Buhari from the Guardian newspaper.
Yeah. So we have moved from technically defeated to substantially defeated.
But there's a difference, though.
I've only look.
I didn't care. Go on.
So we have moved from technically defeated to substantially defeated, and the quote is that they degraded to this extent, and they asked that they protect soft targets, you and I, and every other person that is not paramilitary or military, as the case may be. The president, has spoken emphatically, and one of the pillars on which he wrote for his presidency was the fact that he was going to curb the insurgency. Well, fingers crossed. Let's see how far that will go and what that translates to. Because I recently read Aisha Sisse's book on Beneath the Tamarind Tree, and when you hear experiences of this nature, you understand that most of it is just semantics on the pages of newspapers. in actual fact what is happening on ground. Though we have not heard, maybe it's not been reported that there have been explosions here and there, but if substantially defeating Boko Haram is the way forward, then I'm all for it. So yeah.
What does
All
it
right.
mean?
In essence,
I
we
don't
would
know.
like to know more. We would like to go
I
beyond just
don't know.
the
That's why
vagueness of the expressions, to know how far. Because, I mean, we recall just last week there was a statement made by one of the force
Yeah.
commanders saying that they'll be defeated in 3 months.
We're still
So,
in the
I mean, there's
3
a need to
months.
hold our leaders accountable, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, we have.
All right, thank you very much. Just some YouTube. YouTube is buzzing this morning. Thank you very much. So we have Bimbo Akimbaloye who says we pay lip service to safety in this country across all sectors. Atabameo says on fighting fire as it currently stands, it's in our urban areas. It's impossible to be effective with the poor infrastructure. It's a systemic problem. All right, thank you all for your comments this morning, and for those for whom we couldn't take the comments, apologies. But don't forget the conversation is taken further during Lagos Talks 981, where we look at one of the topics from this morning's Freshly Pressed. So please send in your comments at that hour. But a big thanks to our analysts for this morning, Adenike Oyetunde at Adenike Oyetunde on Twitter. Thank you, Ade Ahimie at Link Nigeria, and of course Ugo Dre at Ugo Dre on Twitter. Thank you. We're still here with the Grapevine 981. Let's find out if Adenike would heed to the request of our listeners and stay back. But this is Smooth 98.1.
Over and out. Uncle, please, my crutches.
All right,
You moved
okay,
it.